Welcome to the Story and Critique Show. This is the first show, the weekly show, where writers from the community will submit their stories, and I will do live readings and live critiques. So that way I can help these writers and eventually you improve your story, make it better step by step, and that way you will be able to publish it and it will one day become that bestseller. Welcome to the stream. I am so excited. I'm Kauffman, and I'm a daily writing live streamer where I believe something crazy. I have this weird belief that every single part of the writing process, the brainstorming, writing, and editing can be both fun and easy with the right framework and the right mindset. So join me on the journey because I stream every day, 172 days of consecutive streaming so far. Woo! And we are just getting started, my friends. All right, so we're going to be hopping right into it today. If you want your story read, whether you're here on the vertical experience or you're here on the horizontal experience, send an email to me with an excerpt of your story to Kauffman at the-creative-ghost.com, down in the ticker on horizontal, up in the ticker on the vertical. And I would love to read your stories. Today we have a mix of stories. We have sci-fi, horror, fantasy, and a mix of nonfiction. We got a script and some short stories. So we're going to be doing a wide range of stories today. And by the way, if you're watching on the replay, whether you're here on YouTube or any of the other platforms, the replay will be available to view on YouTube after the stream ends. So that way, if you had your story read, or let's say you really enjoyed one of the stories I read today, you can go back and listen to it at your convenience. All right, beautiful. So welcome to the stream. Let me hop into the comments. I have LeMay, welcome to the stream, my friend. We're getting in some writing. Woo! And then Eli, welcome to the stream. WTC, welcome, my friends. Glad to see you here. If you're here on the vertical format, thank you for joining me. I will be doing the comments. I have both a vertical setup and a horizontal setup. We are streaming to 7 platforms today. So we're going to be making this as efficient as possible for everyone who wants to join. All right, welcome Bethany to the stream, and Mary, glad to see you. We got the whole crew today, so I am stoked. And by the way, we're doing something super cool again. For those of you who enjoyed it last week, we are doing the quote of the day, game. So make sure that you are dropping comments as much as possible. Whether you're here on horizontal or vertical, drop your comment. Whichever comments that I like at the end of the stream is going to be the winner of today's quote of the day game. The comment that wins will be added to a leaderboard that I am currently creating for the community. I'll probably have it up hopefully by the end of the month. It's still in progress. So make sure you're dropping your comments. I will do a mix of whether it's clever or informative or funny or anything in between. The goal of this is to help us become better writers. Just because we're writing in a 1-sentence comment doesn't mean that that cannot be part of our practicing and improving our writing lifestyle. So drop those comments, keep them coming, and I will announce them at the end of the stream. All right, beautiful. And let's get into the story readings and submissions we got for the day. Awesome. And I already see we got a little activity over here in our horizontal stream. I was trying to get insert, but it ain't much yet. It's okay, Bethany. Keep trying. I'm sure it's going to be coming. It'll be coming. I believe in you. I believe you can fly. Quote, Mary, when inviting a reader into your world, make it worth the trip. That's a great quote. Absolutely agreed with that. When inviting a reader into your world, make it worth the trip. Let's see. Bethany, I've been transferring and in the process of doing some rearranging. It's always a great thing to get done during the weekends. Ariadne, welcome to the stream. Happy to see you. Welcome. I received your story submission. I added it to all the other submissions for the day. So glad to have you here in the stream, my friend. All right, beautiful. And a WTC, I got your story set up for today. It's going to be awesome. All right, beautiful. So let me go over some guidelines and we will get right into it. So for the story reading and submissions, essentially, if you want your story read, I have a couple of ground rules. Let's see, the submission process. So I have a couple of ground rules. So basically, if you want an excerpt of your story read, send it to the email, Kauffman@thecreativeghost.com. I add all the submissions to a running list. I will accept any type of genre and any type of format, whether that's a short story or a script. We get a mix of everything. Now, every story, I will give 10 minutes for a reading and 10 minutes for a critique. I'll try to keep to that 20-minute time frame so I can be fair to everyone, and we can get through as many stories as we can today. Now, in terms of the submission process, so how to submit, just send it to the email with the title of your story, the genre, and your preferred pen name. The way I format it, I'm going to throw it up on the screen, and I'll throw up mine here so you can see it. It'd probably be helpful if I actually, let's see, shared my screen. All right, let's do that. It'll look funky for a minute. There we go. So if you're here on horizontal, you can see how I formatted it. So that way you can see both the reading and the and my guidelines at the same time. If you're here on the vertical experience, because I don't have it set up for you to view the reading itself, you'll just be able to sit back and relax as I'll treat it with my 20 years of acting experience. I'll make it entertaining for everyone. And then in terms of, let's see, so they're all 20 minutes highlighting. So if you see your story being highlighted on the screen, it's neither good or bad. It just means that it's something for me to pay attention to when I go back to the review, when I go back for the critique part of it. All right, beautiful. And most importantly, whether you're here on the horizontal or the vertical, comment, critique, and leave your thoughts. If there's something that you really enjoy about the story that we're reading, drop a comment. One of the greatest things as writers is when we put our stories out there and we have that validation that there's things that are working. If there's something that doesn't work for you, whether it's the character development, world building, dialogue, plot, or structure, say what specifically it is that doesn't work and why. That will help so much. I really appreciate it. So definitely come join the critique, because the more we help others, the more others are willing to help us. All right, and I am all set. So Eli, I got you set up for the start of the stream. Baboon pie and Jaguar champagne. All right, so we will be starting here at the top. Beautiful. And let me cue this up. All right, so Eli, I am all set. Whew. Okay. So we got a little sci-fi here. Now, for those of you who've missed out on our previous story and critique shows, Eli's done the first chapter. He's done a couple iterations of it. Eli has had one of the best character descriptions of any story I've read in this past 6 months. So let's see what we got as we delve into the story of Zikung in Baboon Pie and Jaguar Champagne. Chapter 1, Part 2. Zikung's long black hair trailed frantically behind him in the whipping winds. Furious winds of the superbike as he sped through the Shadow Valley. The river that long ago carved the valley snaked alongside the road and cut through the mostly featureless stretch of starlit grassland for a few miles before where it veered off south. The road bent again and stretched out westward for what seemed like forever. His jacket flapped too, cape-like in the night air, and his loose silk shirt billowed like a parachute. It had been a devilishly hot day, and the night wind was a welcome relief. The heat lingered in the stagnant stillness of the window shadow of the small rocky promontory. But here in the slipstream around the superbike, Zikung felt free as a bird, cool and calm and ready to take his target without a hitch. Now that he was driving, Zekung performed a final series of eye flutters, which switched the glasses input mode from retinal tracker to voice command. He liked it better this way, at least when he was on his superbike. Zekung felt that when it was just him and the superbike out on the road, well, it just makes sense. The red semi-truck came to view at last through the windscreen interface. The UV lights were like a two-way mirror. Zekun could see out, but the world couldn't see in. He locked his eyes on the truck for a moment. Visual contact established with target. Initiate uplink. Uplink initiated. Uplink has been established. The calm synthetic voice was coming through. Oh, let's try that again. Uplink initiated. Uplink has been established. The calm synthetic voice was coming through Zekung's low-profile earbuds. The superbike spoke in a soothing, androgynous tone at a slow and steady pace. It helped Zekung focus when things got hairy. Can I get a cursory analysis of the feasibility of disabling the engine before we intercept? Analyzing. Inadvisable. Your current number of security splices is insufficient to disable the onboard computer's main processor within the designated time frame. Shame. I don't remember the last time it went that smoothly. Hit him with the lights then. He let out a long, tired sigh, and the headlight array erupted with millions of lumens like an instantaneous sunrise, and the truck careened to a screeching halt. Zekung was impressed that the driver managed to keep it on the road at all, although it did understandably jackknife. Things might be looking up. Zekung finished around in one of the interior pockets of his riding jacket and pulled out a small metal case with a hinge on one end and a tiny delicate button on the other. There was an etching on the case of a ferocious tiger spying a beautiful naked woman who was bathing, unaware of any danger, in a pool by a waterfall. He pressed the button and the case sprung open, revealing rows of hand-rolled cigarillos held in place by spring-loaded metal bars. He pulled one out of the case and closed it, tapped the cigarillo abruptly on the case 3 times, and lazily stuck it in the corner of his mouth, while he fished on the other side of the jacket and withdrew a lighter. He lit the cigarillo and waited. After a minute or so, he had passed, and the dust that got kicked up by the truck, screeching to a halt, had all settled. Zekung could see the driver peering out of the windscreen, trying desperately to see anything other than Zekung's blinding array of headlights. He was a young guy, younger than Zekung anyways, younger than the old bandit had any desire to get into a fight with. Turn on the loudspeaker, Zekung said to the superbike. When he continued, speaking, his voice was amplified out into the night air, and the driver could hear him. Why don't you hop down here and let's talk, friend? The driver of the red semi-truck looked furious. Fuck you, you son of a bitch! What the fuck is wrong with you? Turn off those goddamn lights before I do hop down there and stick my foot up your ass! Zekung was shocked by the driver's aggression. Sheesh! You kiss your mother with that mouth? He muttered to himself, but the loudspeaker made it clear as day. The driver was incensed. I know this motherfucker ain't talking about my motherfucking mama! Look, I'm sorry for the mother comment. You're right. That's not what I meant. I'm sure your mother is a lovely woman. Why don't you just calm down and get out of the truck? We can just talk like adults. Zekung realized he's made things worse and was trying to walk the situation back from the brink, but it was too late. You need to shut your fucking mouth and get the fuck out of the road before I get out of this truck, man. You're lucky I'm working and I'm already late, and I ain't got time to fuck your shit up like I feel in my heart, motherfucker. Easy, Kimosabe. Nobody needs to get hurt here. That was the last straw. The driver cut the engine of the semi-truck and climbed down from the cab, blinking his eyes as hard as he could to acclimate to the darkness of the valley. It would take several minutes for his vision to fully return. More than enough time for Zekung to get what he needed. The driver was a lot bigger than Zekung had expected. He took a drag off the cigarillo, and his hand slid slowly to his right side, the everyday pistol, and popped the strap on the holster open. He left his hand there, just in case. I still just want to talk, friend, Zekung said diplomatically. I I know you can't see it, and I don't want to hurt you. Fuck you, said the driver, but without the same murderous rage, he knew that Zekung had the upper hand. Cool it with the swears, friend. I'm not your friend, motherfucker. Zekung pressed a small button on his low-profile earpod and turned the loudspeaker off. Lower the lights, he said to the superbike. The headlamps slowly faded down to the intensity of normal headlamps and the artificial day the two men had been standing in tonight. He pulled the pistol out, but just held it by his side. No reason to point a gun in the face of a blind man. He pulled a king-size chocolate bar out of one of the pockets of his riding jacket with his other hand and held it up towards the other man. The driver was fighting with all his might to force his eyes open, but they were still too damaged by the headlamps to allow it. He held his hand out in front of his face instinctually and lurched around, desperately trying to locate Zekung. I still think we should be friends, said Zekung calmly. He was slowly circling around behind the other man, who had lost track of where he was. He jerked around again in a wild, frantic circle. The bandit continued circling, but changed direction, further disorienting the man when he spoke again. Do you know Jimmy? He asked and began approaching the other man as slowly as ever. Jimmy? I should have known that motherfucker was involved in this shit, said the driver. He appeared to have calmed down substantially at the mention of Jimmy's name. Yeah, Jimmy, Zekung said knowingly. So, I take it you know him? The driver whirled around, bewildered, as Zekung had walked up behind him and was now holding the pistol to his forehead. Stay calm, friend. It's like I said, no one needs to get hurt here. Yeah, right. I'm calm, man. I'm calm, friend. The driver stammered as he felt the cold steel of the pistol on his skin. Zekung smiled and gave a sort of pantomime bow at the driver's use of the word friend. Hold out your hand, friend, said Zekung magnanimously. The man did as he was asked, and Zekung placed the chocolate bar in it. The man was confused. What's this? What do you mean? It's a chocolate bar. What? Why are you giving me this? Eat it, Zekung said reassuringly with a tenderness that disarmed the man's apprehension and lowered the pistol back to his side. The man's face, which then he had been frozen in a scowl of hate, softened at Zekung's fatherly tone. Go ahead, Zekung urged him. Do you like peanut butter? I do, the man said, opening the chocolate bar tentatively. Good. That's good, friend. Eat up now. The man sniffed the chocolate bar cautiously and couldn't find anything suspicious in its smell. He hesitated for several seconds, working out in his head how much effort it would take for Zekung to poison the chocolate and get it resealed on the package. Slowly, he took a bite, then another. The man smiled warmly and savored the chocolate. Zekung smiled as well. It's good, isn't it, friend? Haven't had one of these since I'm a kid. Used to love these, boy. The driver of the red semi-truck seemed to have forgotten that he was ever upset. I'm happy to know it, Zekung responded. Used to ask Miss Smith down the street if I could weed her garden for a bit of pocket change, and I'd go down to Lee's on the corner and pick up one of these and one of them old pirate comics they used to have back then. They didn't have them big like this back then, though. Not at Lee's. He chuckled between chews. What's your name, friend? Zekung asked, smiling broadly at the man's joy over the chocolate bar. Corey, the man said before taking the last bite of the chocolate bar and savoring the taste of it for as long as he could. Corey, my friend, said Zekung, I've got an idea. I think I should give you another chocolate bar, and you should open that yellow cargo container you're carrying. Let me grab something I need. He pulled a second chocolate bar out of his riding jacket and flicked the butt of a cigarillo on the ground. He stamped the embers out with his boot and held out the chocolate bar to Corey, who was no longer smiling. All right, and I was like saying... here. I wanted to see if I should get through it. All right, I want to see the ending. I see you now, friend, said Corey, snatching the chocolate bar from Zekung. It was only now that Zekung took the time to get a really good look at Corey, another dumbass corn country bumpkin. It looked like the old bandit. He was maybe 30, wore a hat with a fish on it, and not the religious type, and had short cropped blonde hair and dull green eyes. Well, good. Corey, if you can see me, Zekung began, holding the pistol up but not pointing at him, then I guess now would be a good time to put this away. He slowly put the pistol back into its holster and held his palms up to Corey to signify that he wasn't going to let him be. Since we're friends now, I don't need it, he added, and then to himself, And if you get any funny ideas, I'll just hit you with the lights again. Ya cool? He asked. I'm cool, Corey responded unconvincingly. I mean it, Corey, Zekung said. I'm cool, man. Shit, Corey repeated, losing his patience. Corey, are you cool? Zekung asked slowly and forcefully. Corey looked him in the eye and nodded. I'm cool. Ice cold, Corey, Zekung said, smiling. He let out a long sigh of relief and stuck his hand out to shake Corey's. The younger man stuck the chocolate bar in the pocket on the breast of his shirt and took Zekung's hand with a look of utter confusion on his face. Name's Zekung. Pleasure, said the old man, shaking his hand vigorously. That's your name? Corey asked. Zekung, that's right. Zekung? Zekung, he said again, smiling charmingly. Pardon my rudeness for asking, friend, but what in the hell kind of name is Zekung for an old white man riding a motorcycle around in Wyoming? Zekung frowned for a moment and looked up at the night sky. He took a deep breath and smiled at Corey again. Why don't you show me what's in the yellow cargo container, Corey? We're such good friends now, and it's such a beautiful night. Be ashamed to spoil it, don't you think? Corey glanced at him, but he knew he didn't have much choice. He sighed in defeat and gestured for Zekung to follow him. Come on, Zekung. The two men walked around to the back of the trailer, and Corey unlocked the yellow cargo container. Here, let me get the light, he said, and he smacked a big red button on the wall of the container. Several fluorescent bulbs hummed to life, and Zekung could see about 25 or 30 crates with various technical markings, several of them warnings of one kind or another, and he smiled. You got something to open these, Corey? Corey sighed again. He reached over and pulled a pry bar off a rack on the wall of the container and held it out to Zekung. Oh no, laughed Zekung, nodding toward the crates and wagging his eyebrows at Corey. Woof! All right. Wow, what a story. Wow. First off, that was very, very, very cool. Very, very great work, my friend. Let me throw up the sound. Very great work. That was awesome. Let me see if I can get the sound on vertical. Woo! All right. So that was awesome. So what I really liked about that is, once again, Eli, your use with character development is really, really incredible. You always do a really good job of establishing your character. Zekung is a very clear character. He is he's very animated. He has his own style, and the world itself feels believable. The things that I loved about this was absolutely the character development, the world building. I think there's a couple areas where the dialogue could have been tuned down a little bit. I think the biggest opportunities for this peak is structure and dialogue. But I should say that this type of story with where it's at is definitely ready. I would assume that this portion of the story is in a second or third draft, because it's very well done. Very, very well done. And clearly, I hope I got the characters right. Clearly, I was having fun digging into the characters. By the way, over on the vertical, welcome to the stream, Mac. Welcome, welcome. All right. And we had to ban somebody from the vertical stream. I'm like, that's not all right. I was like, that's not cool. I was like, okay. Over on the vertical stream, somebody said some comment that was 100% not okay. I was like, okay. All right, friend. Awesome. So that was really awesome. That was a really great story. Let's see. And Eli, looks like everyone's enjoying your story down in the stream. Let me get into the comments real fast. So I don't have a lot of specific comments this time around, but I do have some general comments which are going to help you out. So overall, once again, your character is very well tuned. I love Zekung. Zekung, I adore Zekung. He's fun. He's clever. He has his own style. He 100% reminds me of he almost reminds me as almost like an anime character in some aspects. I kind of get the sense of I feel like there's some anime characters, either Cowboy Bebop or maybe Samurai Champloo. But it reminds me of that style of character. But very, very fun. I absolutely love him. In terms of what could be improved, I was just calling you out some really great uses of description. Your opening paragraph here, I felt a couple run-ons. Yes. It was a little hard to just from a reading perspective to read through the first section. So page 1, go back through and just edit it down a little bit, my friend, from a structural perspective. So edit it down. That would be my recommendation. That would help. And Juanita, hey, welcome, Juanita. Welcome to the stream. Welcome over on the vertical. I thought this was a short, not a live stream. Yeah, so I want to say about 4 months ago, YouTube started doing vertical live streams from the YouTube from the vertical shelf. So that's actually super cool. It's interesting that you thought this was a normal short, though. Interesting. Awesome. Let's see. And then what else do I got for you, Eli? Nightwind, but your description was very on point. I loved it. I think okay, so the first comment, there's 3 major comments that come to mind, Eli. The first thing with your use of dialogue. I know you set up the dialogue in the beginning, but I think there's times where it was just him and if you're just going to have him talking like that, and if he's actually using it as a quote, make it or as a piece of dialogue, I would just make it a new sentence like this, because I think since there's times where you use the his dialogue as more interiority, I would say define when he's speaking aloud and when he's thinking. So I would say that like when he's speaking aloud, like that's fine. We're kind of used to that now. Visual contact established with the target. With something like this, visual uplink, it helps Zicken when things got hairy. Okay, and yep, that was Zickung. That's fine. Uplink established. Zickung's low pro. I absolutely love the I love the super bikes, calm synthetic tone. I hope we get to see more of this cool, calm synthetic like support character. It's interesting. The superbike feels like it's a supporting character. Like it's from the way you've set it up, it feels like it's going to become more and more of a predominant supporting character, and that it's going to be getting more of a personality. So I absolutely love that. Perfect. Let's see. All of those were fine. I love that. Zickung. There was an etching on the case of a ferocious tiger. Once again, this is just beautiful dialogue. There was an etching on the case of a ferocious tiger spying a beautiful naked woman who was bathing, unaware of any danger, in a pool by a waterfall. Right. So that just gives you a very clear description on this etching that he's spotting on the metal case, right? Like that's clear, it's unique, and I think it really definitely sets up the style of it for sure. Awesome. And then what else? Press the waterfall. All of that's good. You lit the cigarello. I would say the next biggest piece of advice would probably be the dialogue with the trucker. Okay, first off, let me start that the discourse between the trucker and the and Zickung was amazing. It was really, really good. I love the discourse from him. I would say that you made the point with the cussing. The cussing, you absolutely made the point with. I would actually dial back the cussing just a little bit. Not because I think you found a way to use it in a way that's effective for this plot and for these characters, but the cussing, it almost feels like right now it feels like you're trying to overly cuss to prove a point. Cut back on the on the swear words by about 25%. But I think overall what you're going for with it does work. I think it's just a little too much. Definitely trucker lingo. Bethany knows for sure over here. That's awesome. Let's see. And let me just check comments. Eli, you're saying this is one draft behind the other section I've submitted. Definitely send in stuff that's not this far along in the future. I don't want to waste the stream's time with really revised stuff. Yeah, well, whatever you want to send, Eli, I really appreciate it. And I'm glad that I guessed on Cowboy Bebop, and it was Akira. I was like, Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo. That was awesome. Hey, welcome to the stream, King. Welcome, my friend. We're just doing a critique on a story I just read from Eli. Let's see. Mary, I think there was good characters, but a bit heavy on the details, like lighting the cigarello. Yeah, you did hone in on the cigarello a lot. I think what would be interesting, I think from a live reading, I don't think I had too many issues with it once I got into the trucker bit. I would almost consider, Eli, the section prior to the trucker, going back through it and editing down and seeing where you can cut down. That would be my recommendation, because prior to the trucker, the only real interesting thing is that Zekung is talking with his motorbike or with Superbike, and I would get to the trucker bit a little faster. Zekung, she should kiss your mother. But yeah, I think the cussing I touched on. But other than that, I was pretty good. Also, be aware of your speech tags or your dialogue tags. I think there was a couple times where later on your dialogue tags, some of them just weren't necessary. It's clear who is speaking. Let's see. Yeah, without the cold steel. The chocolate bar thing was hilarious. Like, that was clever and it felt very unique to his character. So I absolutely love that. Love the chocolate bar bit. And this could have just been during the live reading, Eli, but I'm not sure. I got a little lost on Ziekung's movement around Corey when he was doing the live, when he was getting closer to him with the pistol. I could have just missed it because I'm doing a live reading, but just make sure I just go back to that section and make sure it's crystal clear on what his specific movement is to where he gets the pistol pointed against Corey's head. But yeah, I think that was good. I think that was awesome. So that was a really great story, Eli. And that's all that I got for you. We are loving Zekung and his journey. We're having so much fun with it. Wonderful. So let me go back and check the comments. Really, really great work, Eli. That was a lot of fun. Let me check here. Beautiful. So that was awesome. Now, Eli, once again, thank you for dropping your story. I had a lot of fun reading through that. And Bethany was saying, but as life goes, live and learn, grow, rewrite, and have fun. Absolutely agree with that, Bethany. Let's see. Mary, I see what it means. Does drag a little. The super bike will absolutely be featured heavily as a character. Yes, yes. I want the talking super bike. Yes, I'm like so down for that. And like you could 100% like use that as a huge marketing thing with like the super bike, the cool super bike. That is really cool. I'm glad super bike is a character because that was fun. Let's see. Based on some people I know. Yeah, and it's like this is another thing when we're basing dialogue on real life. If we base dialogue on real life 100%, it's not always going to work. What we do is we take real life dialogue as an example, and then we have to tailor it in a way that's compelling from a storytelling perspective. If you went into a cafe and you took a recorder and you just recorded some random people's dialogue, not saying that you shouldn't be recording people, but I'm just saying in theory, if you were to do something like that, the exact dialogue wouldn't be engaging. Now, of course, if there was something that like intense that was happening, sure, but the point is that like we can't write dialogue that's word for word what people can say, but we can use it as a reference and research when we're crafting dialogue for our own stories. Ariadne, agreed. The cussing gets the point across, but it's a potent spicy. Use sparingly. Awesome. And let's see. And then over on the vertical stream, I got to make sure my comments are set up here. Juanita was saying you are creating a really awesome community. Very fun. Aw, Juanita, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you for joining me over on the the vertical stream over here. I'm getting used to the format of having the vertical going at the same time as the horizontal, so I really appreciate you. Let's see. I definitely don't intend to have that many characters swear. Yeah, I could tell that the swearing bit, Eli, was literally just this one guy. But once again, like reiterate that it is hard to pull swearing off. I think you can, and I think you do pull it off with this. It just right now it's too much, and it just needs to be at that like tailored level. But there's a lot of times where writers try to use cussing and it just doesn't work. I think this is a good example of how it can work if it's used effectively. Let's see. Bethany, let's see, I had a good question. Is it right to fall into your story all over again when you restart it in editing or transferring from pen to paper? Because I am as I get stuff ready for you. Uh, when you restart it in editing, is it right to fall into your story all over again when you restart it in editing or transferring from pen to paper? Because I'm getting stuff ready for you. I'm not quite clear on the question, Bethany. Just reframe that for me. If you're asking about like how do you submit or like what do you want to do when you submit it for the story and critique show, I recommend two things. If you're thinking about submitting your story, either suggest submit the story at whatever draft you want. I can either start from the beginning or pick a point in the story that you need the most help with, and I'll start at that point of the story. It just depends on what your goal is. If you're planning on submitting like multiple times and you just want it to grow with the community, then start from the beginning, because a lot of the community will watch the streams, whether on the live experience or on the replay. So it really changes from person to person, and it depends on what your goals are as a writer. Yes, exactly. Ariadne, thank you again. Recording is illegal. Recording is absolutely illegal. You're literally not allowed to record people without their consent. Um, it's actually really interesting how a lot of influencers, when they like record stuff in public, I think there's a whole thing. Usually, if so here's the way that you get around recording. If you're doing a recording somewhere or you're filming something, if you put up a sign that says you are being recorded and you put like an awareness thing, then people technically, if by seeing it by default, are technically agreeing to it. That's how a lot of time live events and things where they're like doing a filming for it get around that legality thing. But yeah, never record. But I think it's more if we think about an example in dialogue, we want to think about like, okay, how do people sound specifically? And then how do I track that in a way that's for pure research purposes? People do. There's a reason that autobiographies and memoirs are a thing, and we just have to repackage it in a way that's that fits some type of storytelling structure. Awesome. So with that being said, let's hop into the next story. So I'm going to be queuing up. We will get Jaxon Arcanmoor. So I got your story queued up. Echoes of Sacrifice. So we will be doing that. Let me prep your story. I was like, I think I got it somewhere. Let's see, where did I put my stories? Beautiful. So I got Echoes of Sacrifice over here, and I'm loading, setting up the format for y'all. Now, in the meantime, as I'm getting ready for this, let me throw this up and this banner. If you're enjoying the stream, follow and subscribe. I am a crazy writing live streamer. I stream daily. Monday through Thursday is our daily Kauffman Writes, where we do writing sprints and community and just chat about writing. Fridays, I do my story time segment where I read from best-selling novels. Saturdays, obviously, we have our story and critique show. And then Sundays is our Creative Right Now podcast, where tomorrow we'll be doing a deep dive into how to write a story Bible with the Storyteller Pod. So make sure that if you're following and or subscribing, you will be alerted when I go live. All right, so we got that set up, and now let's pull up Jackson's Echoes of Sacrifice. Beautiful. Perfect. So I am all set here. Oop, gotta reset my timer. Perfect. And if you're just joining me over on the vertical experience, on the horizontal streams, I had the writing set up and I have it the Word document set up so I can actually watch along. If you want to watch along with the writing, always feel free to hop over to the Kauffman's Corner YouTube channel on the horizontal stream. But if you're just here to kick back and listen to some storytelling, I got you covered. And we're going to be hopping straight into it. So let me just touch on comments. Let's see. It's not a question. Awesome. And Eli was thanking everyone for the advice. That's awesome. Okay. All right, Jaxon. So I got your story all set here, my friend. And let's see what we got. So I got 20 minutes on the clock. There we go. Thanks, W2C. I was like, I knew I had to fix something. Okay. Echoes of Sacrifice by Jaxon Arcanmoor. Chapter 1. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. The words rang through his mind on repeat as he sat silently, hoping the beast would not find him. As he peered out from his hiding spot, he caught a glimpse of the massive creature prowling nearby. It was larger than any feline he had ever seen, with pitch black fur that seemed to absorb all the surrounding moonlight. As if the size wasn't enough, shadowy tendrils appeared to wrap and crawl over its body, giving it an otherworldly appearance. Just as it neared him, the creature's head shot up in alert. Its green eyes glinted in the moonlight before it turned and disappeared into the truck, into the thick underbrush on the opposite side of the clearing. That fucking creature is a nightmare beast. I can't fight a monster like that with only a basic knife. I never should have agreed to come to the godforsaken forest. Because he understood these creatures came with a great sense of smell, he wanted to put as much distance between him and the beast as possible. Time was not on his side. He needed to act fast. The sound of a nearby stream beckoned to him, and he followed it until he reached its banks. He rolled up his trouser legs and stepped into the cool water, carefully navigating across the slippery rocks to the other side. Once there, he walked down the stream's bank for about 50 or so meters before he re-entered the water and waded back up to the stream to the point he initially entered. He carefully stepped backward out of the cool stream, making sure to leave matching indentations in the soft mud. He reached solid ground and turned around, retracing his steps until he came upon one of the ancient trees with low-hanging branches. With ease, he hoisted himself up onto one of the lower branches, grateful for its support. He scrambled up the tree and carefully positioned himself near its thick trunk, making sure he was out of the beast's line of sight. As he caught his breath, he heard the low rumbling of its growl getting closer. His heart raced as he watched the massive creature follow his scent trail down to the stream. It paused to sniff around before continuing downstream, leaving him relieved, yet still wary of when it might return. I don't understand. I should be that damn beast's food by now. Is she playing with me? He climbed back down the tree and waded through the underbrush, trying to follow his original path as closely as possible before he scouted another place to hold up and rest. I don't want to die. Am I alone in this damn forest? Am I really alone? He looked around him and listened intently for anything that would tell him he was not alone in this battle, and all he heard was silence. No, I don't want to. I don't want to die, even if it might end this fucking nightmare. His mind reeled from the burden this night thrust upon him as he waded through the underbrush. He tried following his original path as closely as possible before he scouted another place to hold up and rest. So what do? I want to survive, get my students, and go back home. That makes anyone standing in the way my enemy. A wicked smile crossed his face. Yes, anyone or anything keeping me from my destination will get no mercy. He decided he needed to fight back to survive. So he searched for anything that he could find as a longer weapon. As he searched, his mind raced with possibilities. He had no formal combat training, but he knew he had to get creative if he wanted to survive. His eyes darted around the dimly lit forest. He spotted a fallen branch, about the length of his arm. He grabbed it and tested its weight in his hands. It was not ideal, but it would have to do for now. He continued to search the undergrowth. Every rustle of the leaves made him flinch. Fatigue had finally set in as the adrenaline from the fear wore off. His body ached, his scratches stung, and his throat felt parched. He needed to find water and a place to rest again, at least for a short while. He heard trickling water nearby. Kieran followed the noise and found a small stream cutting through the forest floor. Kieran knelt down, scooping the cool, clear water into his cupped hands to drink deeply. As he splashed some on his face, a glint of something caught his eye from beneath the stream's surface. He reached in and pulled out a broken arrowhead made of some sort of black stone. Obsidian, perhaps. An idea formed. His hand trembled as he used some vines nearby to attach the arrowhead to the end of his branch, making it into a crude spear. It wasn't much, but it gave him a minor feeling of control in this nightmare. He found a dense thicket that offered some concealment and hunkered down to catch his breath and gather his thoughts. I can't keep running forever. That fucking beast seems to enjoy toying with me. But how long before she grows bored and actually plays for real? He needed a plan. His mind drifted to the survival camps he attended when he was back home. Think, damn it, there's got to be a way to at least slow that beast down. The thought came to him. Traps. I could try to set some traps and lure the damned creature in. Oh, it's a long shot, but what choice do I have? He gripped his makeshift spear tightly. A flicker of determination sparked in his weary eyes. He would not make this easy for the beast. If he was going down, he'd go down fighting. Kieran searched the surrounding area for a suitable spot to set his trap. Nope. Sorry. Kieran searched the surrounding area for a suitable spot to set the traps. He needed a place with natural features he could use to his advantage, perhaps a narrow path flanked by dense undergrowth or boulders to limit the beast's movement. After some scouting, he found an ideal location. The path narrowed between two large, moss-covered boulders before opening into a small clearing. The ground was softer in that area, so it would be easy to dig in. He spent the next couple of hours working diligently to prepare the trap. Using a floating rock about the size of a dinner plate, he dug a shallow pit roughly 2 feet deep, covering the entire width of the path. To avoid detection by scent, he kept his distance from the pit whenever he paused for rest, ensuring his sweat and other scents didn't linger near his work area. After digging, he sharpened small 2-inch stakes with his knife and lined the bottom of the pit with them. Finally, he carefully covered the pit with foliage to camouflage it. He figured that one trap was not enough, so he found some fairly strong branches and tied them together with vines. He took some of the remaining stakes he had made and attached them to the branches. He buried them where he calculated the creature would most likely land if she jumped from the underbrush to sweep across the path to hide the dig marks and footprints. With the trap set, he found a stout tree near the clearing with branches that could support his weight. He climbed up, finding a spot that offered a good view of the path and the clearing. Here, he could wait for the beast, spear at the ready. The forest grew quiet as the dawn approached. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves set his nerves on edge. His muscle ached from tension and fatigue, but he refused to let his guard down. Time seemed to stretch into an eternity. Then he heard the heavy steps, the low, guttural growl that made his blood run cold. The beast was coming. His heart pounded in his chest as he gripped his spear tighter, watching the path below. The moment of truth was upon him. The beast emerged from the shadows, its massive form filling the narrow path. As it stalked forward, the beast stopped and sniffed the ground in front of the pit trap. The beast's head snapped up. It searched the area, and with a quick swipe of its large paw, uncovered the pit trap. He could sense she was mocking him. The beast surveyed the pit, and then easily leaped over. Her left hind paw landed squarely on the secondary trap. She roared out in pain as the spikes found their mark through the soft padding. The beast freed her paw and limped further into the clearing, its eyes glaring as it scoured the clearing for an enemy. She sat back on her hindquarters and lifted the injured paw. Some of the makeshift stakes had broken free of the trap and lodged into the flesh. As she pulled the last of the stakes free with her teeth, he shifted on his perch, the branch creaking softly beneath him. The beast's ears twitched and its head snapped up, locking eyes with him. A low, rumbling growl emanated from its throat that gave him a deathly chill. There was no more time for planning or stealth. This was the moment of reckoning. He leaped from the tree, his makeshift spear aimed at the beast's head, but even injured, the creature was too quick. He spun around, batting him aside with a powerful swipe of its paw. Kieran hit the ground, the impact driving the air from his lungs. Pain lanced through his body, but he struggled to his feet, refusing to surrender. The beast stood facing him, its muzzle pulled back in a snarl that almost looked like a grin. His muscles trembled with exhaustion as he tightened his grip on the spear, steadfast in his decision to take down the ferocious beast that had been stalking him. For hours, he felt his heart beating in his ears as he charged forward, aiming straight for the creature's head. The beast snarled and attempted to dodge, but Kieran's strike was too quick. His spear plunged into the thick hide of the massive creature's left shoulder, causing it to let out a furious howl. But before he could celebrate his victory, the beast swiped at him. He lowered his arm, trying to shoulder the blow, but the force of the blow sent him flying to the nearest tree trunk. He felt a sickening crack of the bone in his upper arm, and fiery pain lanced through his left side as the creature's razor-sharp claws raked across his back and ribs, tearing deep gashes into his flesh. As he struggled to catch his breath and push himself to sit up, he noticed that his warm blood began to soak his tunic. Realization hit him. He would not make it out of this battle alive. "I'm sorry, Zara. Looks like I'm not making it back to you." As the creature hovered over him, he stared defiantly into its eyes, resolute to face his end with courage. But to his shock, the beast suddenly stopped. Its form began to blur and shift, fur receding, limbs and features changing. In mere moments, the monstrous beast had transformed back into the strikingly beautiful woman he encountered earlier that evening. Only the blood staining her tan skin remained as evidence of her wounds. "I don't want to die." Ishani stood over him, her gaze locked with his as she gingerly touched the wound on her shoulder where his spear struck. Despite the pain, a slight smile curved her lips. "Impressive," she said, her voice as soft as a purr. "No one has ever managed to injure me before, let alone twice in one night. I'm losing too much blood. You're welcome," he quipped sarcastically before continuing. "Glad to see I was your first in something. I don't want to die." Ishani nodded in agreement. Yes, I'll remember you as one of my firsts. It is truly a shame for you that the village sent you as my sacrifice." "Sacrifice?" Her statement alarmed him. What the hell do you mean, sacrifice?" He slumped against the rough bark of the tree, his back screaming in agony as it scraped the raw, oozing gashes. He gritted his teeth, trying to stifle a cry of pain as he pressed his body against the tree, trying to stop the bleeding. But the blood continued to pulse out in steady streams, soaking through his shredded tunic and dripping down his sides. "It doesn't make any sense. Why?" "Oh my." Ishani's fingers lightly tapped on her lower lip. "You mean they sent you in here and you weren't told about our arrangement?" "What fucking arrangement?" "I don't get it. I guess it doesn't matter anymore because I'm about to die anyway." Ishani shook her head, black tresses tumbling over her shoulders. "You see, every 3 moons, the village sends me a strong, virile young man as a sacrifice for hunting. If you lasted until dawn, then you would be free." "But I don't want to die, damn it." His face twisted in anger, acceptance, then defiance. "Go ahead, fucking end it." "As you wish." Ishani's voice rumbled before her body, transformed back into a sleek, massive feline. She stalked towards him, muscles rippling under her darkened fur, ready to deliver the final blow. As the darkness claimed him, he could swear he heard the beast roar in victory. Bum, bum, bum. Wow. That was a really well told story, my friend. That was really, really cool. Oh my goodness. Like, I know I even had to go over a little bit, but I really wanted to see that ending because I could tell that this was a standalone story. And it's only chapter 1, so this is just the beginning, which is awesome. Wow. So we got some really interesting character development. Now, clearly this story is a little more focused on, I would say, the plot, with getting that timing in at the end is interesting. We got his character. Like, his character's kind of mixed. There's sometimes where I understand his character, and then there's other times where I'm not as clear on who his character is. I think right now the character development is probably the biggest opportunity of this. Maybe just cutting down some of the descriptions a little bit. But I absolutely, the plot was, I loved that. And the fact that she is like this like shape-shifting what was the animal exactly? It's like a shape-shifting, I knew it was a beast. Shape-shifting that's I like read through it. I'm not even sure what type of animal it was, but I know it was this like crazy beast. And that totally could have been on me if I missed it, but I think it just goes once again to just clarify certain descriptions beyond like I know clearly it's a beast. So that way I can better track, or the reader can better track who the main character is. Okay, awesome. Let's see, this is the first draft. And by the way, WTC, like, and for this being a first draft, like really, really, really great work. That was very awesome for a first draft. That's so incredible. Like, the fact that you got a very clear story with a clear world and some other opportunities for a character, like that's so common for a first draft. But with where it's at, you did a really great job. Mm-hmm. It's like Sean, Mandalorian vibes here though. Love it. Absolutely getting some Mandalorian vibes. Love the shifter action. Absolutely. We like all love shape-shifting creatures here. Like we're all like, yeah, shape-shifting creature for the wind. Sphinx? I was like, interesting. I'm like, I wonder, is the shapeshifter a Sphinx? A feline shifter, because I definitely like, clearly she's a feline character, clearly she's feline, but I was like, is she like a jaguar, or is she like some type of cheetah? I think that was something that I was missing beyond that she was a beast. I did too, Mary. I totally got I totally got like a giant cat beast of some type. No, I definitely went over. So let me hop into some of these some of my feedback real quick. um you know what's interesting, you know what's interesting is I didn't highlight too many specific areas of this because the overall piece flowed very, very smoothly. Really, really great work. I think, like I was saying earlier, I think that your opportunities is defining some of the description. So when I think about the story, it has three sections, right? Technically, the act one of this chapter is him running away from the beast, hoping he's not going to die. Act two is him fighting the beast, and then act three is she's a transformer, or she's a shapeshifter, and he's gonna die anyways, or maybe this is only chapter one. So I think chapter one I would shorten. I would shorten the build up a little bit. It, to me, it feels like it drags on just a little bit. I want to get to the action faster. Alternatively, here's another suggestion. If you want to keep the first part until you get to the fight on the same pace, I would do much more foreshadowing. You do some of his interiority, which is interesting, but I think after like this initial thing, I think it's pretty evident that he doesn't want to die. I'm like, I totally get that. The creature, I was like, once again with like the swearing, I'm like, I'm kind of mixed on your use of swearing in this, and I think it's because I just don't have a clear understanding of who the character is. Right? I got his name, like the name's not super important, but beyond him being a sacrifice, I feel like I know like literally nothing about him by the time I get to the end of the chapter. Other than that, he needs to get back for some students, I think, and he needs to get back. He has something that he wants to get back for. I think the way you open this is interesting. I love the opening for it. And you do some good foreshadowing, especially with him building the weapon. I might I might go faster to the weapon area and add more moments of foreshadowing of him thinking that the beast is about to jump on him. I think that would work. And I think it's good that you just refer to it as a general beast in the beginning. I might, yeah, I think I would move away from the cussing depending on who your audience is. That would be or who your readership is. Only because sometimes it can pull you out. Like I go back and forth on it. Let's see. Before I was understood, characters came with a great sense of smell. He wanted to put as much distance. Yeah, so it's like a great example is like the stream part, like this stream paragraph here. Like interesting is walking nearby a stream, but beyond like it's beyond the fact that he's in a jungle. It's just not. We've already clarified that it's in a forest here. So it's just this is just this like type of paragraph just feels unnecessary to me. What would be interesting is if he was like, okay, he walked to the nearby stream, something jumped out of the water. Oh, but it was just a frog. But something like that, right? So I would employ more foreshadowing. I'd employ more jump scares. Um, yeah, because I would say like the vibe of this is definitely fantasy, but this is like thriller fantasy, I think is what this would be. So I would say definitely thriller fantasy. And I think you have some really great opportunities to try to build up the suspense a lot more. Especially because like the question you want us to be asking is like, oh, is the beast gonna attack right now? Clearly he's running from something creepy. Oh, but W2C, you got a really good comment here. Ariadne was saying, I felt this cussing was the perfect amount of seasoning, right? So once again, it's a subjective thing, right? That's awesome. She would look more like a panther. I totally got that on the panther vibe as well. So yeah, I think what I would do, this is a portal fantasy. Oh, I love that. Will be adult later because there are some really spicy scenes with this harem. Ooh. Sounds exciting. That's awesome. That sounds like a really nice mix. I think is clear about this is the tone is very, very clear. The tone is it's like this thriller / fantasy vibe. And I love that. I think you can just really play into what's working and make it clear by cutting out some of the descriptions and being intentional with the descriptions. Um, yeah, so I think the descriptions are more my cutting down on it prior to the battle. Once they get to the fight itself, I was actually very happy with the fight when she comes upon him. And then I think also maybe including some more like character descriptions about like what does beyond the fact that he wants to survive, giving me a little bit more details about who he is. Why should I care about this guy? Why should I care about Kieran? And I think that's what I'm not clear on. I think right now it's like right now you want us to care about him because he's running from a beast, but we need another reason to care about him early on. And I think that will make your reader even more engaged into who Kieran is as a character beyond the fact that he doesn't want to get killed off. I like your use of interiority. The way you do interiority works very well. Really great job on that. And I love his transition. So I do like how he figures out like the traps and the things to try to do. I think that does work. I think I would just cut down on descriptions just a little bit and add more foreshadowing, some scouting. Yeah, because I mean, this obviously the text is blown up, but I mean, I imagine we don't get to the beast fight. So we get to the beast fight on here. It's page 14, but since it's blown up, so we get to the beast fight around page probably 7 or 8. I would want to get to the beast fight on like page 4 or 5 because I want to pull my reader into the story immediately. So I would get to the beast fight sooner, and then when the beast shows up, what does the beast look like? And I think, I mean, here's two things, right? If you want to keep the beast ambiguous, that's fine. You can get away with that. But I think to clarify what type of creature or maybe some possibilities of what the creature resembles, I think would definitely help the reader beyond it being a beast. I think using beast as foreshadowing is great, but once the beast is here, like I want like a clear description, like how should I be terrified of this beast? Like it's like fangs are like dripping with blood or whatever it is. And I think there's a really good moment the first time she actually jumps out to attack him. I think that would be the perfect moment to give some type of description. Or you could also in the first section, you could do foreshadowing and have him like thinking back to like her like cheetah or her what you said. You said yeah, I did the her panther-like eyes, or that tail that wrapped around and did this, or like the scar upon her furry chest, or whatever you wanted to do. I think there's a couple of different ways you could go about it. But it's essentially because we want to be afraid of the beast. You want to be able to create as much of an image for us, even if that image is ambiguous. But yeah, and then the ending was great. The ending was awesome. I absolutely loved it. I was like, okay, perfect. That was the story. And like, I obviously have questions, but I think it's the right types of questions at the end that makes me want to read more. And oh, I would also give her some more description when she shapeshifts as well. She shapeshifted into a human, right? A shiny nodded. Okay, yeah. So she had transformed into the strikingly beautiful woman. What about the woman is beautiful? So that's what I want to know. I want to know specifically what about her is beautiful. But I like all this. This is all good. Oh, and then this could have just been because you I downloaded on Google Docs, but make sure that you're always indenting new paragraphs. Always indenting. I'm just doing the tab right now, but you can set it into your word processor. So always indent. That's a standard. Beautiful, and that's all that I got for you. Once again, Jax, WTC, like really great work. I really once again want to commend you for doing a really good job on the rough draft, and I had a lot of fun reading through that. I'm like super stoked to get into a later section of the story, because now I'm like, oh, there's got like, it's like fantasy, and we clearly got some like spicy scenes coming up. Like, I am down. So that was definitely really fun. All right. So with that story out of the way, let me queue up my next one. And once again, WTC, thank you so much for submitting it. I'm like so glad that I got to hop into that. All right, let me just hop into the comments, whether you're here on the horizontal or vertical. And by the way, if you're just hopping into the stream, welcome. We're doing live story readings and critiques from the community. So if you want your story read, send an email to the ticker on the vertical or the ticker on the horizontal, Kauffman at the-creative-ghost.com. All right, and we're going to be hopping into our next story shortly. Let me queue up. I got reading number 3. Sean, I'm hopping into your the next part of Torrent. Sean, beautiful. So I got Torrent on deck. Well, I queue that up. Torrent on deck, and let me just hop into the comments. Let's see. Yeah, and I think Ariadne brought up another good point. His mission/purpose revealing that would help the reader get invested in the character faster. Yep. I want to know the character's mission. Absolutely. Let's see. Bethany, writing is like cooking for each author because they each have their own seasonings and cooking methods. Some end up burnt, some are perfect, and some are WTF. Is this supposed to be? And some are, what the fuck is this supposed to be? Bethany, I absolutely love that. That is music to my ears. I love that. Sad part is y'all will meet my beast shapeshifter next week. Ooh, well, Bethany, you know we're looking forward to digging into your story. Absolutely, you should definitely submit it. I have way too much fun reading these things for sure. Awesome. And now let's see, what do I got next? So before we hop into Sean's script, let's go. What do I got? Let's go coaching ad. Perfect. Do you need a writing coach? I was like, I don't think I can pull this up on Perfecto. Do you need a writing coach? First off, what is a writing coach? So I've just brought it up on the stream. I was like, I don't know if I can do it on the vertical or not. But essentially a writing coach helps you speed up the process from whether you're working on the rough draft, the second draft, or the third draft of your story. It works for motivation and it works for skill building. Imagine that you're working on a story. Like you see what I'm doing now with the critiques, but imagine that you could email sections of your story right when you finish them and get immediate feedback, get immediate responses back on your story. So the farther you go into the story, the more your story is refining itself. And then by the time the rough draft is done, the rough draft is realistically going to feel like more of a second draft by the time it's done, because you've worked with a writing coach to improve the efficiency of it. Other things that I do, I also provide skill building. So I determine based on your skill level, what is the areas of writing, whether that's character development, world building, dialogue, plot, or structure that you struggle with. That's your biggest opportunity. And what I'll do is I will create exercises and examples of things that you can do in future sections to help you improve on that. So that's really good. Essentially, you can purchase a coaching as an hourly rate. Right now, my hourly rate is currently $60 an hour. So you can purchase X number of hours, and then that gets deducted from the amount of time spent. You can also, some clients like to do development sessions. Like instead, we could do like an hour session or Zoom calls, conference calls, and basically we do like a deep dive of like, okay, this is where you're at in the story. This is what you need to work on. And we kind of talk through all the brainstorming and all the different aspects of the story development process. It works as a great motivation. If you're working on wanting to publish your first book, it helps if something you struggle with is staying consistent and staying motivated, because having somebody to check in with you and help you with your progress makes such a huge difference. Absolutely. So if you need a writing coach, just shoot me an email at Kauffman at thecreativeghost.com. And I'll drop my email back in, Kauffman at the-creative-goals.com. Okay, so definitely shoot me an email if you are interested and want to learn more. Beautiful. So I got that. And then perfect. Juanita, you were saying, what genres do I prefer working with? So that's a great question. I have the strange belief that each genre has different mechanics and different tropes and different things that work for the genre. But what doesn't change between genres is the core principles of storytelling. Whether you're working with a fantasy story, or whether it's like a fantasy story with a knight and a dragon, or a nonfiction story about the life of somebody who escaped a war. Regardless of the story, you still need to focus on character development. You still need to have world building. You still need to have clear dialogue and still plot or narrative. So I open myself up to different styles of storytelling. Now, a lot of writers and editors predominantly will specialize in an area. I don't. I've gotten a mix before of I tend to get fantasy, sci-fi, and nonfiction are the three most predominant categories that I've received, but I'm open for whatever you need help with. What I recommend is if there's a specific genre that you work in, you can just like reach out to me or drop a message and let me know like what genre you generally work in. In terms of the story and critique show, we generally receive a mix of, I would say the most that we receive is probably fantasy, sci-fi, horror, and then we've gotten some romance. Romance and nonfiction are the next toss-ups. So yeah, I would say we probably get fantasy, sci-fi, horror, nonfiction, romance is what we get here on the show the most. But thanks for asking. All right, so let's hop into Sean's story, Torrent. And by the way, I know Sean was asking a great question on his. Let's see. Sean was absolutely asking a great question. All right, hold on. Let me fix the ticker here. Oh, and actually, by the way, before I even hop into this, I should remind y'all of the quote of the day game. So once again, if you're here in the stream, whether you're watching here on the horizontal or the vertical format, the quote of the day game, make sure you're dropping your comments. Make sure you're commenting as much as possible, whether it's clever, helpful, or just something funny altogether, your comments, I am saving select comments, and the winner at the end of the stream will be announced. I'll do a top 3. I'll probably do a highlights of some of the ones that stood out, and the winner will be added to a live community leaderboard that I'm currently developing for this writing community. So make sure to keep those comments coming if you want to win. All right, so I had to make sure to drop the quote of the day game again. Excellent. And now I know Sean had a really great question. Let's see. So Sean, you were thinking about changing the title for your story, right? Perfect. Let me hop back into the comments. All right. So Sean, you were asked, do you ever get thriller horror? Do you ever get okay, so we have 2 questions here. So quick question. So I'll answer this one first. Do I ever get rom-coms? I get romance, but in terms of rom-com scripts, I don't think I've gotten a rom-com script yet. I've gotten a romance story through the show. I've gotten a couple romance stories. But I think they were like romance / sci-fi or romance / fantasy. My guess is that's probably just based off the type of viewer that comes to the stream. But I'm totally open to romance. I've seen my share of rom-coms before. Absolutely. Because with rom-coms, like, and this is the challenge that we face with, if you're writing a rom-com script, you need to focus on creating a self-told story about a character. And if their story is about finding love or a love thing, you need to make the other characters in the world, the love interest, the love triangle, whatever characters you have, feel believable and not have them feel like cliches or feel like they are a love interest. It's difficult to pull off. Yeah, it's definitely difficult to pull off, but you just have to really focus on the character development and making the character's actions feel believable as compared to the character like accidentally falling in love with this other character. Absolutely. And then quick question, Sean, you're saying quick question in the group. Who has heard past readings of Torrent? Is there a better title? So this is a great call out. If you've joined us for any of the previous story and critique shows, we've gone through a couple excerpts of Sean's script, Torrent, which is a fun thriller horror cop story. Let's see, I'm pulling it up on my end right now. If you're familiar with Torrent at all, Sean was thinking about changing the title of it for it to be more aptly named for the script. So we're going to be reading the next section of it right now. Here we go. So we're going to be reading the next section of it right now. Let's see. We're on pages 58 through 63. So we're somewhere at the midpoint of the story, around the midpoint. So if you think of a better name for the story or for the script, whether you're just watching it along right now, or whether you've joined us in previous episodes and you're familiar with the story, drop a comment. We would love to hear some ideas. I know, Sean, you were saying, so right now the name is Torrent. The gist of the script is we have Miss Summers is this like evil old lady who's the serial killer. And then we have the 2 cops, Nick and Billy. Nick, who's like the one, he's kind of like the asshole who's gone through some things and doesn't has a very negative look on the world. Billy is like the new one in town, but is also coming on the tail of some very like dark things that's happened to his family. So they're clearly going through this like cycle of that they're also friends with Miss Summers because she's an active member in the community, but she's like this creepy little old lady. So definitely any title recommendations, keep them coming. All right, and I'm gonna hop right into it. Okay. I gotta fix that. All right, so I got 20 minutes on the clock. Miss Summers, I need her on like a sassy t-shirt with like off the head slogan. That's funny. Okay. Torrent. Billy sits in the interior police car, diner parking lot, same day. Billy sits in the passenger seat of the squad car, looking at his cell phone. Nick, drenched from the rain, opens. Oh, let me gotta turn that off. Okay, we'll reset that one more time. Billy sits in the passenger seat of the squad car, looking at his cell phone. Nick, drenched from the rain, opens the door and sits behind the wheel. The two sit in silence. I was out of line in there. Yeah, you were. I'm trying to apologize. This is one of those times you should shut the fuck up. Oh, worst apology ever. Oh, you're right. I don't know everything you've been through. I haven't lost a wife to a cannibalistic serial killer. Jesus! But I know about loss. I'm sure the Sarge told you about Garcia. Billy recognizes Nick's attempt to open up. Only that he went missing a couple of years ago. Missing? Missing? Detective Garcia was one of the best husband, father of three, ride or die type of guy. Someone like that just doesn't go missing. Obviously, I don't know Garcia, but maybe neither did you? Excuse me? I'm just saying. People have secrets that they don't share with others, no matter how much you think you know them. What the fuck are you talking about? You're right. You don't know shit about him. So why don't you keep his name out of your fucking mouth? Nick and Billy sit in the car quietly, realizing this was not the conversation he intended to have. Nick tries to calm down by doing some breathing exercises. I'm sorry. You're right. It's none of my business. No, it's just... Anyone do a background check on Garcia? Look into a possible reason for him going missing? You really don't think we know how to do our jobs here, do you, super cop? We did check it out. The whole precinct did. Garcia was even taken off Miss Summers' case. Wait. Burns said Garcia was following a lead just before he went missing. Burns should learn to keep his fucking mouth shut. I did do some reading up on Miss Summers' grandchild getting killed. Look, before Garcia got pulled off the case, he told me Miss Summers' grandson had some connection with missing gang members in the area. Hold on. Are you telling me that you think Garcia and the local gang killings are connected and the link is Miss Summers' grandchild? I never said that. Garcia said he was onto something, but he didn't want to tell me. Thought it might put me in danger. The next day he was nowhere to be found. Jesus. How long was he working on the case before you two became partners? Partners? We were never partners. But Officer Burns said, it's best if you don't listen to a fucking thing Burns says. I swear that guy dishes more dirt than a prairie dog. What? Look, this precinct has been short-staffed for years and haven't partnered officially since I can remember. Garcia and I were civil to each other, but after a couple of years, we just bonded. Closest thing to a brother I ever had. When he became a detective, he would ask me for my help. And when I asked him, he made sure it was a two-way street. Nick's pain reads on his face. The FBI said they would look into it. They told me they were swamped, but would see what they would find. And nothing. Miss Summers would always come in to see Garcia, I guess to see if there was any new information about her case. She came back around to the station to see how I was holding up after he went. She was the only one who really cared how I was doing. Because of her support, You told her you would pick up where Garcia left off. That's why Miss Summers was here the other day. Just to see how much progress had been made. Well, that, and to file the complaint. Is it something I can help with? I would love to take a look, see at the files. Thanks, but I'd rather do this on my own. Hey, could you do me a favor? Sure. Cool it with the look-see. Their conversation is broken by the ding of a text message on Billy's phone. Damn it. The kids broke down, said they got a ride home. Stranger danger. No, I trust my kids. They're pretty good at spotting someone who isn't a threat. Nick glances at Billy, who stares blankly out the rain-soaked front windshield. I hope they didn't stop to pick up dinner. How would you like to join us tonight? Not sure if the boys are picking up something, but we have leftovers if they don't. Uh, I would be happy to pick up a birthday cake too. I don't think. Hey, no problem. I get it. Could you at least drop me at their car? Brad texted they had to abandon on the corner of Fletcher and Bunyan. Hopefully AAA hasn't shown up yet. Sure. And you can stop. You know it's not my fucking birthday. What? Sean. Flo, forget the cake and balloons. It's not his birthday. Son of a bitch lied to me. A small grin breaks across Nick's face as he starts the squad car and pulls out of the parking lot. Interesting. Wow. So Sean, we got a lot more we definitely got a lot more opening up and a lot more character descriptions with this section of the script. Great work. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing me. How like even despite the shortness of it, there was a lot more that we tackled in this section. Okay. So as I think about this overall section, um I think I'm a little mixed on this one, my friend. I feel like there's a lot that you're trying to accomplish with the plot and with kind of like having Nick and Billy connect, but something I don't know what it was, but I felt like I know what it is. I feel like in this section, Sean, I feel like I'm getting too much at I feel like this is the exposition. Yep. That's the reason why I'm struggling with this. It feels like it's a lot of exposition. That's exactly what it is. This scene is very exposition heavy. I'm getting a lot of telling in this. And I think up until this point, you've done a really, really great job of showing. But like a lot of these things do need to be touched on. So let me see. So I'm trying to think of how I would go about fixing this if I were working on it. Why does Sean one of my questions is why does Nick apologize? It's like why was this one I like vaguely remember the last section. I know Nick was being an asshole and Billy walked out. But what causes Nick to want to apologize this time around? I think maybe that's something I'm missing. Like I get the idea, right? Nick was an asshole in the diner, Billy walked out, Nick goes back to the car and he's like, I was out of line. Um Actually, I feel like it would be good. What if Billy were in the car if he was looking at a picture of his wife on his phone, obviously? I think that would kind of like get Nick's heartstrings a little bit. Like Nick probably already feels a little guilty. He gets in the car, he sees Billy looking at not just his phone, but he's looking at like a picture of his dead wife. Or maybe that one picture. This would actually be a great moment to tie in what was that one picture that Miss Summers looked at in a previous scene, but maybe it's like the similar picture with him and his wife and his kids. And maybe like Nick seeing that, like that's like now he feels guilty, right? Because up until this point, Nick doesn't really seem to give a shit about apologizing. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I think that's also it as well. I think Nick's reaction, I think because Sean, like up throughout the script, Nick is always up here. So like last scene, he didn't he was here where he's always been. So it didn't really seem like it kind of seems like we're used to it. Um, I think if you wanted Nick to really apologize, then his explosion at in the last scene needs to be bigger. Like he needs to like do something that would be socially maybe unacceptable, beyond making Billy feel guilty about his dead wife. Like maybe he takes something and he like slams it across the in the restaurant, right? And then they get kicked out. Maybe something like that. And that would cause him, that would be another way to cause him to be like, okay, yeah, he was definitely out of line. But yeah, that's a really good point of does there need to be a stronger reaction? Let's see. Yeah, I think so too. I think splitting this up could help. Like maybe if they're getting into this conversation in the diner, and then this is like the apology. It's just the problem is there's just so much exposition in here, and it like needs to be broken up by something, right? Whether it's the radio, like, and I mean they're going to go drive to pick up the kids anyways. Um, yeah, I would say definitely split up some of it with the diner. If there's a way that you can find, if you can find ways to, break it up with some type of suspense, that would be great, especially with the storm, or maybe, like, if they're in the diner or they see a gang member passing by, like, this would actually be the time for them to see a passing gang member, or maybe there's a gang member who's, like, 2 of them are sitting down in the diner or some shit like that. Like, that's what I would recommend. It just needs to be broken up by something, so it doesn't feel like it just you trying them the exposition just feels like it could easily lose somebody. Hmm. Okay. So, that's what I would say about that. And it's like it's once again, it's nothing specific. I don't think I have any very like specific comments other than just breaking it up with something. Yeah, I think the gang member would be interesting. Aw, thanks, Sean. Let's see. Is there anything else? Nick's cussing in this section is a little over the top. I would cut back on his cussing. And Paquito would cut it back by about 20%. Clearly he's upset. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, and I think it just comes down to cutting the dialogue. Like for this instance, I'd be like, you didn't know him. You you didn't know shit about him, so don't you keep his name out of your fucking mouth? Yeah, and then I think that the descriptions, for like things like this, it's just a matter of just like cutting it down. Look, this precinct has been short staffed for years and haven't partnered officially since I can remember. Garcia and I were civil to each other, but after a couple of years, we just bonded. Closest thing to a brother I ever had. When he became a detective, he would ask for my help. And when I asked him, he made sure it was a two-way street. Find a way to shorten that just because that's like super wordy. Because like some of these things, like I think there are things that we've already learned to an extent. Look, this precinct has been short staffed. Like this is something that you could easily introduce as an idea when Sarge is talking about things earlier on in the script. I think by now it should be obvious it's short staffed. Um, it's obviously I think the viewers already picked up on that he probably hasn't had a partner in a while, and I think Sarge made this obvious earlier on in the script. And I think this is where we want to start. Like, we want to learn about the Garcia bit. And I'd be like, Garcia was the closest Garcia, the closest thing I had to a brother. When he became a detective, he would ask for my help. And when I asked him, he would ask for my help, and vice versa. It was a two-way street, but something to that effect. I like think things like that you could just cut down in their dialogue. I absolutely loved though, the thing that I loved about this was the, foreshadowing to the kids and Billy's line of like, "Oh yeah, the kids are a good judge of character." as they get in the car of the serial killer. We're like, clearly they're not, or Miss Summers is just that much better. Yeah, and Mary, so it's a good point you bring up, but I think it's always hard with scripts because like scripts you want to minimize on the physical descriptions unless they're forwarding the plot because you generally want to leave a lot of that type of description up to the actors. Times that you would include physical description is if like they're doing an action or something's happening. So I think Sean, like if you can find ways to break it up with maybe like Billy like tries to play the radio and Nick smacks his hand away, or just like random things like that. Finding ways to break it up, I think, would be very powerful. Or maybe Billy showing like Billy like texting the kids and the kids don't respond, or whatever you want to do. And the gang members is a good idea. Just find ways to break it up, I think would be beneficial. I think this is good. This is good. Clearly something's going to happen with Miss Summers. I'm eager to see what like the next scene is going to look like, or the Summers confrontation. That'll be interesting since clearly they're going to go to the house. Summers won't be there because the kids will be at Summers' house. Clearly she's going to capture the kids, or maybe she'll kill one of them. I don't know. Who knows? Let's see. No, one of the kids there. She's probably going to like think about doing something evil to one of them, and then one of the kids are going to like go into the dead grandchild's room and remind her of the grandchild. Let's see. And what else? And then just with this ending, this just like I think I got the gist of what you're going for with the birthday joke, but it just didn't it didn't flow. Or it just didn't work for me specifically. It went over my head. So it's not Nick's birthday. I thought it was. No, it's not his birthday. Wait, I thought it was his birthday. But maybe I'm just missing it since I'm reading this in sections. But yeah, that's just something I wasn't clear about. But I mean, I think this idea is funny. Flo, forget the cake and balloons. I'm not sure who you're referencing by Flo, so clearly it's just a reference that's lost on me specifically, which is why it's always challenging to do specific pop culture references. I feel like I should know it. If you're here in the comments and you're watching on the live stream or the replay, drop a comment. Did you get the reference? I'm curious if it was just a me thing or not. But yeah, I just didn't get this. But I think the thing with forget the cake and the balloons, I think that could be funny. And I think it's funny that Billy's kind of like trying to act like Nick, and I think that's what creates this like repertoire between the two of them. Oh, that's right. He made that off about happy fucking birthday to me. Gotcha. Okay, that makes a little more sense. I forgot about that. Yeah. So I would just adjust the flow comment, Sean. Hmm. But yeah, other than that, that's all the feedback that Flow's a reference to the TV show Alice. Interesting. I mean, I've never seen it, but Sean, I mean, I think this is once again another thing that you have to think through. Like, if you make a reference to Star Wars, everybody knows Star Wars. If you make a reference to Harry Potter, people are familiar. Game of Thrones, everybody knows what Game of Thrones is. When you're making a reference to a TV show, now you can do it in the genre and you can do it in the vein, but that whenever you do references, you chance missing people if they haven't seen the specific reference that you're referring to. So that's why I'm always like careful on how I go about references with characters and worlds, because you don't want to chance like if somebody's watching it and they don't get the reference, you just miss having them connect with that moment. So that's why I always suggest like keep references to like huge pop culture trends, especially if you're hopping into the live stream right now. If you're creating references in your story, keep the references to major pop culture trends. If you're writing a script, know that when you're writing this now, if it gets pitched and picked up by a production studio, the script itself, the whole production process won't even like have the script ready to view for at least probably a couple years at best. 1 year, maybe if it's fast, 2 to 3 is probably more average from the moment that you're writing the script. So if you're making a reference to something that's popular right now, you ask yourself this, will the audience still get it in 2 to 3 years? So I think that's something to, yeah, I think Sarge would be a really good Sean. I think that would work really well because clearly, Sarge is a very memorable character. I think that'd be good. Hey, what's up, Steph? Welcome to the stream, my friend. We just finished up Sean's script with Torrent. We're actually about to hop into our next story. So, Sean, thank you again for sending that over. I'm like, you have me hooked on the overall story. I really want to know what's going to happen with Miss Summers. I want to know, like, who is Miss Summers going to kill next? Is she going to kill one of the little boys? Hopefully not. Those both of them are young. I don't think you can. Usually, you can't get away with killing a child unless it's like a central plot point. Unless you want the audience to hate her, but you've done enough character development with her to make the audience care about her. So I don't think that's what you want. But interesting. Yeah. And I mean, clearly we're getting the gang connections now. So maybe the antagonist is a gang member. That could be the truth. Or maybe the people she skinned are. So it's interesting. As we're at this point in the script, now that we've gotten some more backstory, it could be that we've been led to believe that Miss Summers is the serial killer when she's actually not. The gang members are probably the bad guy. The antagonist is probably one of the gang members. And you've led us on a red herrings for a while to believe that Miss Summers is the antagonist, when realistically she's probably following more of a revenge plot. So yeah, that would be my guess actually. Now that we're reaching the midpoint, my guess is that Miss Summers isn't actually the antagonist. It's one of the gang members. So more to come, Sean. I'll look forward to the future excerpts. Thank you again for sharing that, my friend. All right, and let's hop straight into the next reading. Let's see. I got reading number 4. So I got an excerpt here. It's called Chuflay the Alcides Rua Garnica. So thank you for submitting that. I'm going to queue up his section. All right. Garcia by Alcides Rua Garnica. So the script is called Chuflay. We're actually going to be hopping into a later section in the script because there was specific feedback that he was looking for help with. Awesome. And by the way, if you're enjoying the stream, tap that like button. If you're on the vertical format, this way. Tap that like button. Let me know that you're getting value out of it. If you're here on the horizontal, smash the like button, smash the heart button, the smiley button, whatever those reactions are, and help me show that the writing streams are cool, that they're the place to be. Help me show the algorithm that writing streams are awesome. So that way we can bring in more writers, get more feedback, more stories, and more growth in our writing community. All right, beautiful. And I am pulling up the script Chuflay. All right, so let me adjust my timer here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to be hopping into, this is a script that we're going to be doing this time. Let's see for reading number 4. Perfect. So this is going to be a script that we're doing. Let's see. Let me adjust this for the ticker. And by the way, if you're still wanting your story read, make sure to submit a copy to the Kauffman at thecreativeghost.com, and I will add it to our submissions. And don't forget, keep those comments coming. We are still doing the quote of the day game, and the top quotes are going to be announced at the end of the stream. Is your quote clever? Is it funny? Is it informative? Stick around after our writing sprint, and I will announce the winner of the quote of the day game. All right, so we've got Alcides all set up. And I hope I was saying your name right, Alcides. So, okay. So what we're going to be doing, let's see. So Alcides submitted his script. So he sent me the full draft of the script. He actually asked for specific feedback on a later section of it. So we're going to be hopping into the end of the script because he said that he's been getting the most what was it? He said he's gotten the most diverse reactions for the end of it. So we're going to be hopping into the end of it. Now, clearly you'll be able to see let's see. My guess with the terminology and the names is it might be written for a different audience, for a different international audience, which is totally all right. So what we want to do is we want to ask ourselves what parts of the character development, what parts of the world, and what parts of the core story work that are engaging. Okay, so we're going to be starting at the end. I know nothing about the script either, so we will see what this climax / resolution looks like. Okay. It's like making sure that y'all can see it. Perfect. Okay. So I got 20 minutes on the clock. Perfect. All right. So I got 20 minutes on the clock and I am all ready. So the script is called Chuflay. Scene 67. The two English Maston dogs listen carefully to Chuflay's narration. Lupo, you were in serious danger of dying. Valdo, the training helped you a lot, Blowtorch. Otherwise, you would have died without pain or glory. Lupo, now go eat. We'll leave you something to eat. Chuflay, really, this is harder to believe compared to what happened to me. How incredulous, the Blowtorch. Exterior, scene 68. Exterior, moved earth, night. Grippo and Neuron are facing each other. Both have their corners puckered, revealing their teeth. The place where they are has its slope. Neuron is at the bottom. Grippo rushes on Neuron. He backs up, quickly avoiding Grippo's bites. He stands on his two legs to attack. Neuron does the same. And for a moment, the two standing dogs begin to bite their bodies. The two dogs turn back on their four legs. Neuron looks back where the moving earth is and slowly backs up towards back without stopping looking at Grippo. He gains momentum and throws himself on Neuron. He feints the encounter and Grippo passes by. Neuron turns around and attacks Grippo, pushing him until he falls to the place of the moving earth. Neuron borders the instead until he stands behind Grippo. He, with difficulty, turns around because of the mud. He manages to move his body a little more, and it becomes more difficult for him to remove any of his legs, until finally, he cannot move. Neuron. That is the advantage of fighting in your domain. You know all its secrets. What will you do now? I cannot move. That's right. You fucking idiot. No one passes by here. No one will hear you if you bark. You will die slowly. The more you try to move, the more you will sink. Did you realize? Grippo. Look, get me out of here and I'll do what you ask me. Seriously? And what happened to Chuflay? He went home. You were supposed to finish him off. Now I have another problem to solve. Get me out of here, and I swear I'll finish with Chuflay today. Don't make me laugh. You had two chances. Now look at the result. One was saved for being smart, and the other is going to die for being stupid. And stupidity has its price, and you have to pay. You know what its price is, right? Neuron leaves the place while hearing groans of fear from Grippo. Scene 69, interior porch night. Valdo and Lupo are sitting in the porch, and they're serious. Lupo. Now Trini is in danger. She doesn't know what kind of dog Neuron is. Valdo. That Neuron is treacherous. But where do you know Trini from? Everyone has a story to tell about love. You know I have mine too. If I see, then you better go warn Trini about the danger she is in. Of course, I'll go. At that moment, Chuflay approaches where Lupo and Valdo are. Valdo and I will go to Trini's. Will you come with us? Of course, that dog is not to be trusted. He can't convince them, but I was the one who kidnapped Tuto, and they end up lynching me. Scene 70, exterior Trini house night. Neuron is returning to Trini's house, and he meets Lupo, Trini, Valdo, and Chuflay. The 4 dogs have serious faces. Neuron. Now, what is it about? We know everything you did. Well, what will you do? Kill me? No, this is not the purpose of this meeting. We want you to leave. You already had too much trouble to stay. What did I do? Like what I did. You pushed me into a hole. You planned the Tuto thing. Where's Grippo? He was supposed to be. That idiot is in a better place than this, I can assure you. The truth is that you must go. And if I refuse to leave, Lupo walks over to Neuron. You leave me no choice but to fight you. Neuron stares at Lupo, then looks at the others. Well, at least I tried. On the side of Lupo, he walks out and then begins to jog. Lost in the darkness of the night, the 4 dogs look at each other and smile. Scene 71, interior dining room morning. All the elders are gathered at the table having their breakfast. Franz. There is a cougar prowling the place where the cattle graze. By its tracks it is a large cougar. It is stalking the cattle. It has already eaten several young. We must kill it, or it will end all the young. When one does nothing to stop this hunt, it is customary to kill cattle. For the cougar, the young are easy prey to kill. So today in the morning, I will go to the slope and see if it continues prowling the place. Isn't Dad very dangerous? Of course it's dangerous. Someone better accompany you, Father. Franz. No, actually, I don't know if it will come down the slope. You have to follow its tracks, study them. You know that those animals are unpredictable. Sometimes they appear and then disappear. I will take the dogs with me and return after noon, okay? Don't you want me to accompany you? No thanks, George. You guys take care of the harvest, and thanks to all. He gets up from the table, goes to the hangar, picks up his hat and his whip, then goes to the room where his rifle is. The 3 dogs are lying on their 4 legs. Franz goes out into the hall. On his right shoulder is a saddlebag, and on his left shoulder he carries his canteen. In his right hand he carries his rifle in its leather case. In his left hand he carries his whip, is dressed in a rancher-style shirt and leather vest, wears jeans, and wears Texan boots. Franz, Lupo and Valdo, we will go to the mountain. The 2 dogs wag their tails and bark. Franz crosses the porch in the direction of the stable. Will you come with us? Of course. How to miss the fun? It ain't no fun. Clueless blowtorch. For me, it's fun. I don't know where he sees the fun. Leave him alone. He has fun in his own way, which for us is a routine. For him, it is something new. You understand? Something. Franz comes up on his horse, passing where the 3 dogs are. He whistles, and the 2 English Mastiffs get up and start walking behind the horse. Chuflay joins them, and the 3 dogs march behind Franz. Scene 73, exterior Meadow Fountain day. The dogs walk along a path. Lupo is first, behind is Valdo and Chuflay. Further back is Franz mounted on his horse. The 3 dogs are tired with their tongues out. They see the circle of water on the slope, and they are trotting towards the slope. Franz stops his horse behind the edge of the slope, gets off his horse, and observes the tracks of the cougar that are marked in the clay surrounding the slope. Begins to walk, following the tracks that come and go from the slope, and they lose wherever the undergrowth begins. He reaches the slope with his horse. The 3 dogs are drinking water. The 3 horses bend down and starts drinking. Franz unties his canteen from the saddle and starts drinking. Drops water on the palm of his hand, and it is passed through the neck. Then, pulling the reins, he leads his horse to a small log where he ties his horse. Franz takes his rifle out of its case and its saddlebags, slung them over his shoulder. Then he goes to a large tree that casts good shade, leans his rifle and saddlebags on the tree, takes off his hat, and sits under the tree. Dogs sniff here and there, bark from time to time, then calm down. Franz takes his saddlebags and takes out the food, distributes pieces of dried meat to each of the dogs. Then Franz orders them to leave. The 3 dogs settle near him. Franz eats a few bits of his food, leans his head on the tree, and covers his face with his hat. The horse whinnies, getting nervous, taps the ground with its legs. Franz takes his hat off his face and sees his horse. Nervous, he sits up and takes a look around. The 3 dogs are still in place, watching Franz. Meanwhile, about 30 yards from the opposite end of Franz, there's a cougar standing in the undergrowth. It is very large, light brown, watching the dogs and watching Franz. He walks and observes his horse and his dogs and sees that they have their ears up and their eyes attentive. The cougar begins to walk in a crouching manner, tracing an arc of circumference from time to time. He looks up just above the brush. He approaches about 10 yards from where Franz is. He walks back with his head back to the cougar. The dogs are somewhat nervous and bark. The horse is more nervous, moving its head. Franz walks in the direction of his rifle. The cougar is getting closer and closer to Franz, always hidden in the brush. The distance between the cougar and Franz is about 6 yards. The brush is less overgrown. Roaring, the cougar launches the attack, takes 3 big jumps, and is on top of Franz's humanity. He barely manages to turn his head and feels the cougar claw on his back, causing him 3 slight cuts. Franz screams in pain, and at the same time falls to the ground. A bloodstain appears on his back. The 2 dogs, Mast and Ingalls, react, pouncing on the cougar. This gives Franz another claw on his thigh of his leg right from the back. Franz screams louder in pain. The dogs attack the back legs of the cougar. Chuflay is sometimes behind Valdo and other times behind Lupo. The cougar turns its body, both its right and left paws. The 2 dogs dodge the claws. The claws of the cougar pass very close from the bodies of Valdo and Lupo. Once the cougar drives the dogs back, it attacks Franz again, who is crawling on the ground with the direction of his rifle. The cougar gives another claw to the calf of Franz's leg, destroying the Texan boot and wounding Franz. He grits his teeth and endures the pain. The 2 Maston English dogs attack the cougar. It turns and goes back to the charge against the 2 dogs. This time the dogs attack the cougar from the sides. Lupo from the right side and Valdo from the left side. While Valdo tries to bite the side of the cougar's body, Lupo manages to bite him in his hind leg. The cougar reacts quickly. When Lupo's releasing of the cougar's leg, the cougar gives him a claw that goes from the neck to the front leg of Lupo. He howls in pain and tries again to bite. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop there because we hit the point. I just want to see where the story was heading. Okay. So I just want to check and see where we're going. So first off, the fact that you made it this far into your script, so it looks like you have a completed script here, is absolutely incredible. I totally want to applaud you because it's really great work. And it's really, really. I can tell that you've done a lot of character development and you've put in an incredible amount of time into developing this script, and that is absolutely to be commended. So thank you for that. Now, as I think about what are the biggest opportunities for this, it's going to be a little more difficult for me to give specific character development practices since we're hopping into such a late part of the story. But I'm going to say that the biggest thing which made it difficult to read was all of the big blocks of text. So let's go. So I have 2 sections here. So we'll first off start with the character development. I have 2 different opportunities here. So the first one is with the characters. Now, I was like, okay, so it's cool. We're doing like a story with a bunch of dog type characters and the dogs can talk. I'm like, maybe it's an animated, maybe it's not, hard to say. But clearly it's called Chuflay. So the Chuflay is probably the protagonist, but we're so late in the story, like we didn't really get too much of him. Right now, I just feel like I have a lot of characters, and even without knowing anything about each of the individual characters, the different dialogue between them didn't feel like it was distinct. Like I didn't feel like I had a very distinct personality between some of the different characters. And that was just, yeah, because we had Neuron, Trini, Lupo. So we had Lupo, Trini, Neuron, Lupo, Trini, Vaudo, and Chuflay in one scene. And then in the Elder scene, we had Franz, Tiffany, and George. Of like, okay, that one's fine. That was only 3 elders. That's fine. But I think so. In the dog scene, we have 5 dogs, right? We have Lupo, Trini, Vaudo, Chuflay, and Neuron. And Trini's not in the scene, but she's referenced. So, right, and I'm sure like you set them up, and they were introduced early on in the script. But in terms of like personalities, if I was to take off, like, let's say that I got rid of all the names of all the characters, just as a test, right? I did this. And this is a really great exercise when you're working on character development and dialogue, especially for scripts. Now, let's just say I read it. Now, what is it about? We know everything you did. Well, what will you do? Kill me? No. What is it? What? No, that is not the purpose of this meeting. We want you to leave. You already had too much trouble to stay. What did I do? Like, what did I do? You pushed me into a hole. You planned the Tuto thing. Where's Grippo? He was supposed to be. So you see, it's not clear on each, like, I can tell two different characters are talking, which like that's clear, but I don't get a clear personality on each of these characters, right? And I think that's the thing that's missing. So I'll go back, and that was just from 2 of the characters, from Neuron and Lupo. So I think what I really want to do is, if I were to go into like a second draft of this, I would ask myself, what is the major for a character development purpose, what is the thing that's unique about Neuron? What's the thing that's unique about Lupo? And then how do I instill that character development into their dialogue? So each of their characters feel like they have unique purposes in the story. So I think I would do that, just in clarifying. I might, I mean, clearly the story is about Chuflay, but I might even consider, and like this is without knowing any of the plot about the story, but I might consider cutting down on a character. But it's hard to say without knowing, like without reading too much of the script. But I might consider cutting down on one of the dog characters. But that's just a gut feeling from just this section. Now, that's for the characters themselves. For the ending, so something that you want to be mindful of, and if you are writing a script, actually, I'm kind of curious if you've ever written a script, or you're a screenwriter, or you work on any type of like scripts for TV or movies. Drop a comment. Just say I if you do if you're a script writer. I'm really curious how many screenwriters we get in here. So just say I if you do any type of script or screenwriting. So something that you really want to keep in mind for scripts is you want to keep in mind who is your reader, who's your audience. If you're creating the script for yourself and you're going to produce it and you're going to film it with your own team, that's different because you're the one who's going to be responsible for it, and then you can translate it to whoever your script supervisor is and all the other aspects of the production process. But if you're planning on pitching this to a studio and you're planning on having multiple agents read this, you're having multiple executives. And when I say agents and executives, you're going to have an agent who's going to need to like your script to then pitch it to studios. If you're sending it to studios, it's first going to be read by assistants. And you want to think about, what is the reading experience? If whenever as writers, when we're presented with a block of text like this, we are immediately put off from the words. We like white spaces in between our writing. So what I would actually recommend is, anytime that you have a block of text like this, I would find a way to edit it down or break it up with an action in between. And that just from the character description or from the character dialogue. When we get to this, let's see, when we get to the climax here, it was difficult for us, and it was even difficult for me to follow along with what was going on, because it's so difficult to read as a reader, simply because it's an entire block of text, which is literally 1, 2, 3. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. So it's literally 4 pages of single space text, which is difficult to read. Any agent that you send this to would immediately get turned off by it. simply because it starts coming across more as like more as a story format. So specifically, if you're catering to the script format, what you want to do is there's ways to do action sequences where you're going through the action. You want to leave out the way characters feel. If a character feels something, you leave it out. That's for books and short stories. You want to give just the specific action, right? So if I was going to like work on this, I'll give you a really good example. Let's say I was going to break this up. Right? So like most of this isn't even necessary. You could say, let's see, let me get my keyboard because I want to give you a really good example here. Lupo, Valdo, and Chuflay. Lupo, Valdo, I'd go Franz, and Chuflay. And Franz is mounted on his horse. Okay, so Franz is the character. Lupo, Valdo, and Chuflay follow a path. Follow along a path behind Franz, mounted on a horse. They approach a circle of water. Perfect. So you see, that's how I would fix that, right? And now just look, and this is just one example, right? So you see how I now cut down 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4 sentences. I've cut that down into 2 sentences with giving enough action. Essentially, this entire, like, you have what, 3, I think it was what, 1, 2, 3, 1, I forgot, 1, 2, 3. So about 3.5. You want to cut that 3.5 pages down into a page. And you need to then break up each of these pages with more dialogue, right? So I would recommend rewriting this portion of the story because it's actually really interesting. It's actually really exciting, right? They're getting attacked by this cougar. There's this whole like action sequence. There's this whole fight, and it's really cool, right? But I think it would be beneficial to like throw in some dialogue of like, oh, it's a Google Docs. I won't. The dialogue thing won't work for me. But I would like then throw in some dialogue of like, oh, is the cougar the truck? One of them saying like, oh, I spot the cougar nearby, or something like that, right? So then that's another way to break this up. And you are much more likely then to get agents and people interested in if you're not like doing big blocks of text like that. Because like once again, the goal is I want people to buy your script. I want you to be able to put your script out there, produce it, and get the audience that you need. But if readers, whoever is reading it, agent, assistant, production company, can't get through it, they'll drop it and move on to the thousands of other scripts that they're solicited. And especially this far into the story, you definitely don't want to lose them at the climax. That would just suck to lose somebody at the climax of the script, especially if they're that invested. So that would be my recommendation. I think those are the 2 biggest things between the character development and the structure. So yeah, and I just wanted to say once again, Alcides, thank you so much for submitting that. I hope that helped. You're probably watching this on the replay. So if you're, let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything that didn't make sense. And I'm happy to answer any questions about this. Absolutely. Wonderful. So thank you so much for submitting that. As you can see, like, and that's interesting. I was like, okay, so we're going with a bunch of like dog characters. I was asking myself whether it was animated. Like, I think it was one of those like I think it was a live action one with dogs. I'm like, ooh, that's fun. When I was growing up, I remember watching this movie called Homeward Bound with like a cat, a dog. I think it was like a cat and 2 dogs. And it's one of those movies where the animals, it's like live action and the animals are speaking the entire time. And I like absolutely adored that movie for some reason. I haven't seen a live action with animals done in a while. But I mean, now with AI and technology, like you could probably pull off the type of movie very well. Yeah, you could pull off a live action with animals very well. I think the last one that like tanked and did horrible was Cats. Like, Cats was, I think, was like considered a box office like disaster. So I think you have to be clear on how you intend to go about the visual effects for it. Man. All right. So, whoo, man. All right. With where we're at. So, all right. So with what we got next, so I think like my voice is killing me a little bit. I feel like I taxed myself a little bit. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm probably gonna wrap up the reading section of this story or of this stream. Simply because like I'm feeling my voice going out. So if you submitted your story and I still haven't gotten to it, don't fear. I'll queue them up for next Saturday's stream. Simply because I think I have about 4 or 5 more stories to get through, and clearly I'm not. My voice isn't going to do much for me today. So, yeah. So that's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna move on right now to my daily writing sprint. But before you go, I'm doing a live website review with WTC Creative. If you want your author website reviewed, make sure that you apply now to submit your website for review. So I'm dropping that in the chat. Let's see on the vertical. If you're here on the vertical, just drop a comment if you want the Google Docs link. But we'll be doing this next Friday. I'm doing a partnered live stream with WTC Creative where we're going to be reviewing author websites. It's going to be super cool. I'm really looking forward to it. So if you want feedback on your author website, follow the Google Docs link, apply, and you'll get added to the submissions for all the author websites we're going to review. So super excited. We got some fun streams going on next week. All right. And what we're going to do now, I'm going to hop into the daily writing sprint. So I'm going to be working on Last Scarecrow. Feel free to join along. If you're here on the vertical side, I'll throw up some music so you can kind of just vibe if you want to get some writing in. And yeah. And if you're here on the horizontal, we are going to daily writing sprint. All right, I'm going to get Last Scarecrow queued up here. But don't forget, if you've been commenting and you've been participating, the quote of the day game, keep those quotes coming, keep those comments coming, and I will announce the winner and the top highlighted quotes after the writing sprint. So keep those comments coming. And how many comments do I have saved up so far? I want to say I have about 10 comments that I've saved up so far. So keep those comments coming if you want to be crowned the winner of the quote of the game, the quote of the day game. All right. So with that being said, let me queue up Last Scarecrow. Feel free to come join along if you want to get some writing done on Last Scarecrow. All right, so I'm just formatting it on my end, but let's get some writing done. Let's hop into our daily writing sprint. Got to pull up my story. All right, perfect. So I got Last Scarecrow queued up. If let's say you're feeling super creative, come join me on the writing sprint. We're only going to do 20 minutes, but let's say it's been like a long day. Feel free to kick back and I will write vicariously for the both of us. Where am I at? Oh, that's right. Scarecrow's fighting a zombie dragon. So, all right, that's where we're at right now. We are dealing with a scarecrow and a zombie dragon right now. All right, Scarecrow and the Zombie. That's my tentative title. All right, so I'm going to throw up some music and we are going to get going. Let's get it on. All right. All right, so I got 20 minutes on the clock and it's time right now.
song, destiny to see. Stand and rise, face the dark, like the skies. Leave your mark, eyes on the prize. Heart beats hard, dreams to realize. Played every card, the wind whispers brave. The stars guide the way, no soul left to save. Time to make
All right. Okay, and this brings us to the end of our writing sprint. So I hope you were able to get some good writing on your end. I definitely got, I was like, I was going back and forth. I got like some writing. I'm doing setup for this scene right now. And I was really trying to determine like what is the how do I want this area to feel, right? So Scarecrow is going on this journey. He's we're getting close to the climax where he has to go find his friends. Each of them are trapped on these different islands protected by these auras. And he steps into this first island, which is protected by this yellow aura, as there's a trail of zombie creatures on his tail. And he steps into basically like a sky. Like he steps into like he walks from like this rocky, narrow path into the aura, and now he's basically on a cloud, and he's basically overlooking just a clouded sky. So I was really thinking through like, how do I want to describe it? How do I want to set it up? What I like to do with areas like that when I'm still determining it, I'll do like a very like base description, and then I will go and I'll refine specifically how I want the reader to visualize it in the second draft. So I think I like the direction I'm going with this space, but we'll see how it comes. I hope the writing sprints were able to treat you well. Awesome. Stephanie getting some writing done. That's what it's all about. I love to hear that. Awesome. So, wonderful. And by the way, let's see, Bethany, you asked a great question. What's people's feelings on beta readers? So I'm sure most of you know what a beta reader is. We have an alpha reader and a beta reader. Now, what's interesting is I had never really heard those terms up until I want to say about maybe about 6 months to a year ago when I really started doing more research on an author's journey on publishing a book. Do I think alpha and beta readers can be a necessary part of your first book experience? Absolutely. Do I think every writer needs an alpha and a beta reader? Not necessarily. So this is how I fall on it. I think essentially what an alpha or a beta reader is going to do is they're going to basically read through your story and give you feedback and a critique. So essentially it's kind of like what I'm doing here on the story and critique show, but essentially you're going to have somebody read through the whole story. Usually alpha and beta readers charge less. Sometimes they do it for free. I'm of the belief people shouldn't be doing things for free. They should be doing things where they're getting some sort of value. Now, value doesn't always have to mean money, right? Value can sometimes mean services, or sometimes it can mean attention. But I am of the belief that if you're going to have someone help with your book, you should be trading something of some type of value because we all value our time. Now, alpha and beta readers are essentially going to help you tell you what your story, what works and what doesn't. It's essentially a full-on critique and an analysis, which is good after you finished an early draft of your story and you need feedback on like, okay, does it actually work? Is it a good story? The difference between an alpha and a beta reader as compared to an editor is basically going to go through it line by line and give you notes, give you specific things, and tell you basically how to fix the story. Depending on how much work the story needs, an edit could be a lot or it can be a little. It depends on where you're at in your storytelling or in your specific book and your skill level. Writers who've been writing for a while, have a greater skill level, are going to be a little farther along, so the amount of editing will probably be minimized as compared to if you're a newer writer or you've never published a book before, the editing process might take a little longer. So I think if you're uncertain about your book and if you haven't had anybody read it, you should have somebody do an alpha beta. You should definitely find alpha beta readers. For me specifically with Last Scarecrow, because I'm taking a very unique approach to the live streaming experience, I'm going to be skipping the alpha and beta reader steps because I feel confident in my own storytelling like ability to tell a world. And I'm going to go straight to an editing step when I'm ready to hire an editor. But that's not always going to be the same for every book. It's just my strategy with Last Scarecrow specifically. I'm going to be moving straight to reaching out for an editor simply because I feel like I'm going to be able to get some type of I'm getting feedback and will continue to get feedback just from doing this as a live experience over the course of 6 months. So awesome. But Bethany, that's a great question. Absolutely great question. Yeah, Ariadne, you brought up a good point. Beta readers can be very helpful, especially you get in critique styles, 100%. Dang, Stephanie, amazing. Stephanie wrote 4,000 words today. That's absolutely incredible. You deserve the applause. When we hit word counts, it's really awesome. I was like, yeah, that's what we want. My writing sprint, I didn't feel super successful. Like I didn't get a lot in. I think I only got a couple paragraphs. But I wanted to go back through what I'd written previously. So I felt like all right on my writing sprint. That's all right. I love the part of the story that I'm on. I'm just really trying to figure out like what's the right setting. I think the biggest opportunity for Last Scarecrow is definitely the world building. I know the world building is hands down the biggest opportunity. The plot, I'm very happy about the plot. The characters, mixed. I love Last Scarecrow. I love Pebble. I loved Crow. But I know my supporting characters definitely need some development, and I got a bunch of details to really work on. So awesome. So as we look towards the quote of the day game, wonderful. My favorite. So let's pull up your quotes that stood out. Woo! Oh man. So we actually got some really good quotes this time around. Let's see what we got. So the quote of the day game. All right. We got to get a drum roll here. All right. So I'll put that down at the ticker and let's see. So I'm going to be pulling up some quotes that really stood out to me. Oh, let's see. And I'm just going back, making sure I didn't miss any other quotes. Okay, so let's what we see got. So I'm going to highlight some of the quotes that stood out to me. It looks like I got 10 quotes. All right, so let's see which ones stood out. All right, so Mary, you had a great quote. When inviting a reader into your world, make it worth a trip. Bethany, but as life goes, live and learn, grow, rewrite, and have fun. Absolutely agree with that. Let's see some other highlights. Ariadne, I felt this cussing was the perfect amount of seasoning. Absolutely love that. That was another good highlight. Ariadne, this was another really good comment. His mission purpose, revealing that would help the reader get invested in the character faster, because the mission and purpose of our character development is so, so important. So that was another great quote. Let's see. Bethany, writing is like cooking for each author because they have each have their own seasonings and cooking methods. Some end up burnt, some are perfect, and some are what the fuck is this supposed to be? LOL. Let's see. And then Ariadne got another one. Beta readers can be helpful, especially you get in critiques, because beta readers, that is a great comment. Wonderful. Okay. So definitely some good quotes, definitely some good comments today. I think so I'm going to give you top 3. There's another Ariadne one. The Mandalorian vibes though. Woo! Mandalorian for the win. Hopefully we get a Mandalorian eventually. I had to throw in the Mandalorian one. I love that quote. Okay. So let's see. So my top 3 quotes. So coming in at number 3, we're going to go. Okay. So quote number 3, I'm going to be giving it up to Ariadne. His mission purpose revealing that would help the reader get invested in the character faster. That is an absolutely great critique and a great comment because the mission and purpose is so important for character development. Really, really great quote. So that one is definitely number 3. And now, well, let me make sure I'm checking on. Perfect. The vertical. So number 3 is Ariadne, his mission purpose revealing that would help the reader get invested in the character faster. Okay, and the number 2, Mary, quote, when inviting a reader into your world, make it worth the trip. Number 2, Mary, you get the second place for the second quote. And the number 1 quote of the day. Let's give a drum roll. The winner of today's Story and Critique Show episode 19 of today's winner, the quote is Bethany Harris. Bethany, you win the quote of the day. Writing is like cooking for each author because they each have their own seasonings and cooking methods. Some end up burnt, some are perfect, and some are, what the fuck is this supposed to be? LOL. Bethany, great work. That is hands down definitely my favorite quote of the day. Woo! And I will say up some applause here. We're getting applause on both the horizontal and the vertical stream. So really great work, Bethany. That is an absolutely amazing quote. I picked this one because specifically you took the conversation that we were already talking about with writing and cooking, and then you made it your own, and you gave us a cool little metaphor that any writer could take away from. And once again, for the vertical stream, the winning quote of the day is from Bethany. Writing is like cooking for each author because they each have their own seasonings and cooking methods. Some end up burnt, some are perfect, and some are, what the fuck is this supposed to be? Awesome. So that was a great quote, Bethany. That's going to be added to our leaderboards for the Hall of Quotes for the community tool that I am currently developing. The community tool is in the works. I will probably be launching it hopefully by the end of the month, might be early January. So once I have it ready, I will be sharing it with the community. Wonderful work, Bethany. Absolutely love that. Woo! I was like, really great work. Ariadne, Mary, and Bethany. Congrats to all 3 of you for coming in top 3. Ariadne, I just want to say, like, welcome to the writing community. I know I haven't seen you in here too much previously, but I really appreciate all of your comments, your feedback, and you had some great stuff to say today. So thank you. I definitely want to make sure to say, like, for each of you who were involved today, Ariadne, Mary, Bethany, of course, love you being in here. Stephanie, thanks for dropping by. Sean, loved having you. Doing a call. WTC, I'm looking forward to our writing stream. Thank you all for being involved and for being active. Juanita, love to see you back in the stream. Thanks for hopping over to the horizontal. Eli, and everybody else in between. Thank you for joining me today. We had some great storytelling. We had some great stuff on our plate. Now, and of course, Vaughn, my friend, traveling, becoming an international traveler. I see you over here on the vertical stream. Thank you all for joining me today. Now, as I look towards creative writing on the morrow. So what do we have next in store? So if you're looking for something to watch, down in the YouTube playlist, so if you're watching from another platform, if you hop over to YouTube, down in the playlist is the reading sprints for storytellers. It's great. It highlights some of our previous story and critique episodes. If you want to hear some more stories read and you're like, you're not done with the fun to end. Plus, you'll get some previous submissions from some of the stories we read through today. So definitely go check that out. And then, most importantly, let's talk through, make sure. Awesome. So as we talk through tomorrow's stream, If you want to know how to write a series Bible, you're going to want to stick around for tomorrow because we are going to be doing a deep dive with the Storyteller Pod. Let me pull up. Beautiful. So here's the YouTube event for how to write a dynamic series Bible with Natasha over at the Storyteller Pod. It's going to be at tomorrow, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. So same time we started today. Make sure you come join us. If there's any questions you have about how to create a story Bible, a series Bible, whatever you want to call it, make sure you join us. It's going to be a very active one. Our podcast episodes are always so much fun. I'm really looking forward to sitting down with Natasha, and we're going to be having some great conversations. Natasha has over 20 years of experience working in animation and working on television. So we're going to be digging into her expertise and figuring out like, all right, if I'm working on my story, what is a story Bible? Now, predominantly story Bibles are used in scripts, but we need to have story Bibles for our own stories if we're working on books and short stories as well. How are we going to know? How are we going to remember the innkeeper's green eyes 3 books later? How are we going to remember details like that? So stay tuned and come join us for tomorrow's Creative Right Now podcast. All right, and I feel pretty good. Thanks so much, Vaughn. I really appreciate you. So Vaughn was just saying over in the comments on the vertical stream, he was asking if I could read some chapters from my own book. Thank you. I appreciate it, Vaughn. So right now, I'm thinking through how I will read through some of the chapters in Last Scarecrow when I get to the audiobook, when I start recording the audiobook. So I'll probably do something fun for the audiobook with Last Scarecrow later on in the process. But more to come. Absolutely more to come. And definitely if you want to know some of my writing and style, we'll be doing our live AI, ChatGPT AI free write game tomorrow at the end of the podcast. So make sure that if you want to whether hear like however, whatever I can create in a free write, or you want to join in on the game, join us for tomorrow's Creative Right Now podcast. Hey, welcome, John, to the stream. My friend, it's great to have you here, but we're hitting that point in the stream. And it's time for me to say, don't forget, like the stream on your way out. Tap that like button. Let me know that you got value out of the stream. Help us show the YouTube, the Instagram, Twitch, LinkedIn, X algorithms that writing streams are the place to be. And that, my friends, is all that I have for you today. Make sure. It's been a day. Thank you for joining me. And that is wrapping up the stream. Don't forget, words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kauffman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers. Thanks for joining me today.